Good evening, Saskatoon! It is so great to be here with you, with my good friend Kevin Waugh. Now, who remembers him calling sports on television here? He went from Friday night football to Friday night politics. In a province that votes blue but bleeds green. Now, my wife worked for the CFL. My wife, Rebecca and Molly Jack, are here. Give a wave. She's got a Grey Cup ring. Now, I won't tell you for what team, because we do want to leave here alive. But once in a while, I wear it on my pinky and I say I was the backup punter, just for fun. But look, it is so great to be amongst friends here in Saskatchewan. I was here a little over a month ago. So thank you, Kevin. Thank you to our incredible team here in Saskatchewan. It is great, after a very difficult year and a half for our country, to get together in person. I get to hear real applause, not emojis on your computer screen. If after my speech, if you have a question for me, just come on over and ask it. You don't have to hit the ask a question function. And I'll tell you, standing ovations in person are a lot better than on Zoom, because you can't trust standing ovations on Zoom, especially if there's Liberal MPs involved. You don't want them standing up, believe you me. Now, friends, let's get serious for a moment, because it is an election, right? 12 years ago, you'd all remember, the Liberals, the NDP, the Bloc Québécois, signed a pact to govern Canada as a coalition. Today, with the addition of the Green Party, that is precisely what we have. There really is no choice between Justin Trudeau's Liberals, the NDP, and the Greens. They're all the same, and they're all part of the problem. For years, the NDP and the Greens have helped Justin Trudeau cover up his scandals, prop up his government, his budgets. None of them have a plan to get Canada out of deficit. In fact, those other parties love spending your hard-earned money just as much as Justin Trudeau does. None of them are concerned that for the first time in 40 years in our country, inflation is a serious problem. There is a cost of living crisis in Canada right now, felt especially hard by seniors on fixed income and by families trying to keep up with life. The cost of food going up. The cost of clothes for your kids in back to school time going up. The cost of fuel for farming families, for commuting families going up. But Justin Trudeau, just this week, said that he doesn't worry about monetary policy or inflation because it doesn't impact families. Wow. Only a prime minister that is totally disconnected from the real needs of Canadian families would say something so disconnected from real life than that. You got it! The Liberals, thank you. The Liberals, the NDP, and the Greens, they don't understand that running massive deficits year after year, driving away jobs from Canada, that leads to inflation, causing prices to skyrocket. Not only squeezing families, that's going to put our social safety net at risk. And that's something Canada's Conservatives are going to fight against. Now, the timing of this election is reckless. Justin Trudeau and his government should be focused on keeping the Delta variant out of Canada and keeping the spread of it down. He should be stepping up to help the forest fires ravaging our friends in British Columbia. He should be helping Canadian workers, particularly in highly hit sectors, get back on their feet after the toughest year and a half that many of these businesses have had in their lifetime. But instead of putting the interests of Canadian families, farmers, small businesses first, Justin Trudeau is putting his own narrow political interests first. But as poorly timed as this election is, it gives Canadians an important choice. And all of you know this, but more and more Canadians, seeing those prices skyrocket, are beginning to realize we are at a crossroads as a country. And the two paths being offered before us in this election couldn't be more different. The first path, being offered by the Trudeau Liberals, the NDP, and the Greens, no path to Canada's economic recovery after the pandemic. They want to keep hundreds of thousands of working families out of work as they transition away entire sectors of our economy when we need them the most. But friends, there is another path. The path being offered by Canada's Conservatives. Our team will work relentlessly on creating jobs, getting wages up, and making life more affordable for families here in Saskatoon, in Saskatchewan, and across this great country. We will always put the interests of Canadian families first, and the interests of politicians in Ottawa behind those. You got it. This election is really about who has a plan to pick our country up, dust it off, get it back on its feet, and get it back to work after COVID-19. This election is about you talking to your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers in all parts of the country to say, who do you think will secure the future for all Canadians? Erin O'Toole. I like that answer. Perfect marks for my friend over there. Cette élection va déterminer qui va nous sortir de la crise actuelle et rebâtir l'économie. À votre avis, qui peut agir pour l'avenir pour tous les Canadiens? I learned my French in the military. I had to work hard at it. But we all work hard in our life for things that are important. And another thing I learned in my 12 years in the military, you don't tackle any problem unless you have a plan. And my goodness, this week, Conservatives launched the most comprehensive plan in an election in our history. Canada's Recovery Plan. See, they're those standing ovations I like in person. I welcome those. Have you heard about the 5 pillars of our plan? Good. Well, I'm going to review them. Now, she's already got perfect marks in the corner. We will secure jobs. 1 million jobs in 1 year by firing up our economy in all sectors, all regions of the country. Let's get back to work. We will also secure accountability by enacting a new anti-corruption law to clean up the mess in Ottawa. People ask me, why do you need the toughest anti-corruption law in Canadian history? Because we have the most corrupt government in Canadian history. 3 personal ethical investigations for the leader. What example does that set for the team? What example does that set for our kids? Our 3rd pillar, what is it? A national leadership role on mental health for Canadians. Because I'll tell you, one of the lasting effects will be the toll of this crisis on our country. And Conservatives are compassionate. We want to show leadership on the wellness of our families, of our communities, and of our country. Our 4th pillar, we will secure our country by building capacity here at home to handle any crisis. We won't rely on China, we will rely on Canada for vaccines, critical equipment, and getting our country back on track. And finally, and I know this is important to Conservatives, and we put it as the 5th pillar, the anchor to our plan, we will secure our economy and really our children's future by balancing the budget over the next decade. We have to do that for our children and our grandchildren. If we don't, we're in trouble. You're exactly right, sir. Now, you know one of the things I love about Canada, and I do love this country, it's how we rely on one another and we support one another. I was in St. John, New Brunswick, just a month ago, and my colleagues know this. I stood in front of a glorious 2-story high pile of Saskatchewan potash. Yes, in St. John, New Brunswick. Why do I find that inspiring? Because Saskatchewan's resource leadership is not only creating jobs here, it's securing hundreds of jobs in Atlantic Canada. Your success is Canada's success. That is Canada at its best, leading the world and supporting one another. That is the Conservative vision for securing the future and working together. But we all know, after 6 years of Justin Trudeau, some parts of our country, including in this great province, are losing hope in Canada. After 6 years of Justin Trudeau, we are less united, we are less prosperous, and we are less respected around the world. And if you don't believe me on that last one, here's a trick. Just Google Justin Trudeau and trip to India, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Seems like some of you remember. When I go to represent Canada on the world stage, I'll be fighting for trade, I'll be fighting for security, I'll be fighting for our interests. I won't be fighting for attention. You got it. I love this country, and I know that all of you love it too. Our country is the greatest country on earth. Our country has challenges. All countries do. We have inequalities that we must tackle. We have deep wounds, in many cases made worse from this pandemic, that we must heal. We must all dedicate ourselves as Canadians to walk the path of reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. Hear, hear. And you know what? If you understand our country and its history, you can find inspiration in it. I'm inspired by Indigenous veterans who risked it all for Canada, even when Canada was failing them. Saskatchewan's own Mary Grey Eyes from the Muskeg Lake First Nation, here in Saskatchewan, the first Indigenous woman to join the Canadian Armed Forces. Her brother, a decorated war hero, the first to be commissioned as an officer abroad. 5 children from that family served their country. I draw inspiration from that. The Liberals, the NDP, and the Greens seem to always want to tear our country down. Well, I want to build our country up. I want to add to the Canadian story, not subtract from it. And we need to rededicate our efforts to tell that story better. Because if you don't take pride in your country, are you really going to dig deep to make Canada the country it truly can be? If you don't love something, are you going to have that true patriot love to fire you up to make it better? So that's why I say, I love our country, and our country coming out of COVID-19 needs a plan. And Canada's recovery plan will secure our future in all regions of the country, all sectors, inspiring Canadians as we work together. And it's time for a government in Ottawa that respects Western Canada. We've had 6 years of a Liberal government that pits one part of the country against another, one sector against another, sometimes Canadians against another, and treats provinces differently, often based on how you vote. That ends the day we form government after September 20th. Now, this is a good crowd. All my lines, including state visit to India, you know them all. No one's Googling anything. You all know the history of Mr. Trudeau, and it's disappointing. But you remember, when he was first running to be Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau was asked what country he most admired, and he famously said, China! Well, I'm running to be Prime Minister. And the country I most admire is the country I've served my entire life, the great country of Canada. We've got the plan that Canada needs. Our team is ready to secure the future. We need to grow our mission, get this country back on track. Let's get to work. Thank you, Saskatoon. Thank you very much.